This video is brought to you by True Tales of Buried Treasure, the largest collection of old treasure magazines in the West. On our website, you can search for individual treasure stories by region or by our original magazines themselves. To pay us a visit, please click on the link in the description. Enjoy.
Rabbi Joshua Kaplan, the temporary head of the religious council in Tiberias, Israel, gazed in amazement at the tall, silver-haired stranger who stepped into his chaotic office on the 26th of April, 1966. Tiberias, a lively retreat nestled near towering mountains on the western edge of the Sea of Galilee, has always been a blend of earthly delights and mystical elevation, human emotions and religious zeal, practical commerce and ancient myths. Its renown derives from the thermal springs that flow from a crevice in the steep cliffs just south of the town. There are 2 types of mineral water and 3 varieties of radioactive mud that supposedly alleviate various ailments from arthritis to zymosis. Around 200 hotels, hostels, and boarding houses, along with 600 medical practitioners, earn a livelihood from the mineral waters, renowned over the ages as the springs of salvation. The most esteemed scholars and holy individuals of Judaism were drawn to Tiberias. Just south of the town, spanning the hot springs, lies the tomb of Rabbi Meir Baal Hannes, Meir the Miracle Maker, who healed incurable illnesses with prayers and mineral waters, restoring sight to the blind and hearing to the deaf. People still journey here to supplicate and cast themselves over his grave, particularly barren women seeking to conceive. It is believed that a single night of prostration over Rabbi Meir's grave, followed by an hour of immersion in the waters, enables even elderly women to bear children. In the city itself stands the tomb of Rambam Maimonides, the renowned Jewish physician, philosopher, and saint who resided at the court of the King of Spain in the 13th century, performed numerous miracles, and relocated to the Holy Land to settle in Tiberias. A brief prayer at his grave, followed by lighting a candle and taking a dip in the springs, is said to be a highly effective remedy for ulcers, heart, and kidney ailments. Among the 100,000 individuals who visit Tiberias in an average month, 97% are tourists or patients seeking a cure. 1% are saintly scholars from rabbinical schools and religious institutions. 1% are eccentric individuals, and the remaining 1% are swindlers, preying on unsuspecting victims. Rabbi Kaplan therefore regarded the distinguished visitor with curiosity, attempting to place him. "My name is Raymond Chantilly," the man stated, "and I am a history professor at Toulouse University in France. I wonder if you could assist me in locating the grave of a Jewish woman who was interred here in 1790. Her name was Sarah Medini, and she was the daughter of a prominent banker from Strasbourg." Rabbi Kaplan's head shook solemnly. "I am truly sorry, but we cannot be of assistance." The Medinis were indeed a renowned family who acquired vast expanses of land along the Sea of Galilee in the 18th century. They were instrumental in funding the establishment of a Jewish community center in Tiberias in 1740, and generously donated land for the city's initial cemetery in 1742. "Descendants of the Medinis still reside here," the rabbi added, "but the ancient cemetery was obliterated by a landslide during Tiberias's catastrophic devastation in 1837. We enclosed the area and cleared most of the accumulated debris, yet all gravestones have vanished, making individual grave identification impossible." The French professor contemplated this information. "Surely your archives contain records of the burials, including names, dates, and locations," he proposed. "Indeed," the rabbi affirmed. "Our records date back to 1742, the year of the inaugural interment." Professor Chantilly produced a checkbook and fountain pen. "I would be willing to cover your expenses and contribute up to $5,000 to the religious council and its charitable endeavors in exchange for permission to excavate the ancient burial site and locate Sarah Medini's grave." Rabbi Kaplan regarded the visitor intently. "Forgive me, Professor, but you are not of the Jewish faith, are you? For if you were, you would understand that our religious principles prohibit disturbing the resting places of the deceased. It is not a matter of wealth, but rather one of our fundamental laws." we could not entertain such a notion, regardless of the sum. Might I inquire as to why the remains of Sarah Mardini, or whatever may remain after the passage of years and earthquakes, are of such paramount significance to you? Professor Chantilly rose from his seat. I shan't burden you with history, Rabbi, but I have cause to suspect that the woman interred in Tiberias as Sarah Mardini is truly a French adventuress known as Countess Jean Lamotte. The real Sarah Mardini perished in London and found her resting place there. Both women, childhood friends, bore a striking resemblance. Some mistook them for twin sisters, though Sarah, a brunette, differed from the Countess, a blonde. Nonetheless, dyed hair and wigs were commonplace in those times. Jean Lamotte suffered a right ankle fracture from a horse fall, leaving her with a slight limp. Modern medicine could ascertain whether the buried woman is Sarah Mardini or the Countess Lamotte. Rabbi Kaplan pledged to examine old burial records and dispatch copies to the professor's lodging. Once the stranger departed, the rabbi notified Chief Inspector Gershon Oren of the Tiberias Police, recounting the encounter. "Do you reckon he's a bit daft?" queried the police chief. "It's not that, Chief," the rabbi answered. "In truth, he seems a serious individual well versed in historical matters and scholarly research. But one thing troubles me. My encounters with university professors have never involved them offering $500 for obscure research, let alone $5,000. And I sense he would have offered $10,000 to study the skeleton. Scholars don't behave in such a manner, and the whole affair reeks of deceit. Do you follow, Chief? Right. If this man isn't mad, he's either a genuine scholar or a swindler, the chief concluded. I'll contact National Police Headquarters in Tel Aviv and request they verify whether a history professor named Chantilly is indeed employed by the University of Toulouse. In less than a day, a curt teleprinter message arrived, delivering the startling news that Toulouse University's esteemed professors had no knowledge of a certain Raymond Chantilly. Instead, his name was emblazoned across the records of the International Police Commission, Interpol, in Paris, linking him to a string of suspicious activities involving the illicit trade of precious gems and the large-scale smuggling of gold to India. It was revealed that Raymond Chantilly was merely one of the many aliases donned by Jacques Francini, who hailed from Bastia, Corsica, born in 1913 to the proprietor of a local tavern. On the 27th of April in 1966, Professor Chantilly found himself detained for questioning, vehemently denying any ulterior motives behind his peculiar inquiries. Armed with a legitimate French passport and an extensive dossier of compelling evidence, he sought to substantiate the authenticity of his account regarding the switch of identities between Jean Lamotte and Sarah Mardini. Under the intense scrutiny of seasoned investigators, the impostor eventually confessed to being lured by the prospect of unearthing a diamond necklace, valued at a staggering $4 million, from the resting place of Sarah Mardini. This priceless necklace, originally intended as a gift for a king's paramour, had been embroiled in a scandal that reverberated throughout France. Having committed no overt transgressions and not being implicated in any plot to contravene Israeli law, Francini was released from custody with the stipulation that he depart the country within 48 hours. To prevent the desecration of the ancient cemetery in a frenzied quest for Sarah Mardini's grave by treasure hunters and independent historians, the police took the precaution of removing the old burial records from the Tiberias Religious Council and stationing a guard at the cemetery. Descendants of the Mardini clan who now reside in Tiberias have protested against rumors and insinuations that Sarah was involved in the notorious diamond swindle that changed world history by toppling the French monarchy and sparking the French Revolution of 1789. But serious historical research and a thorough check of old family records shows the bogus professor's story may be authentic. Indeed, thanks to the interest generated in police, rabbinical, and academic circles by the crook's attempt to locate Sarah Mardini's grave, it is now possible to shed light on one of the most dramatic and mysterious con games in history. Jean Valois and Sarah Mardini were born in Strasbourg on the same day, May 16, 1756. Jean's father, Count Henri Valois, was an impoverished nobleman who claimed descent from King Henri II and his beautiful mistress, Nicole de Savigny. However, Count Valois's title was worth little in terms of hard cash, and he was perennially in debt to Moses Medini, a Jewish banker who was Strasbourg's leading financier. After Count Henri's death in a hunting accident, the Medinis bankrolled Jeanne's education together with that of their daughter Sarah. They even found a husband for Jeanne and provided her with a dowry. The lucky man was Count Robert Lamat, another impoverished nobleman with connections at the palace of Louis de Rohan, the powerful Cardinal of Strasbourg. Count Lamotte was a notorious swordsman, rake and brawler, whose legendary exploits inspired a series of historical novels by Alexandre Dumas. The happy-go-lucky Count was glad to get an attractive blonde wife and a few bags of gold in the bargain. Count Lamotte was lucky in love, but not in cards. He soon owed money to many loan sharks and gamblers. Then Sarah Medini fell in love with him, despite the fact he was her best friend's husband. In return, the Count was captivated by the brunette girl's beauty, poise, and wealth. In the enchanting realm of 18th century France, romantic entanglements were as ubiquitous as they are in our modern times. However, the illustrious Medini family, known for their devout adherence to the Jewish faith and esteemed status in the community, observed with deep dismay and apprehension the amorous affair unfolding between their daughter and the newlywed Count. In their earnest endeavor to mend her heart and secure a union within their faith, they dispatched her to sojourn with relatives in London, aspiring for her to convalesce from the ill-fated romance and perhaps find companionship with a respectable Jewish gentleman, perchance the scion of a prominent banker. Across the bustling streets of Paris, the Lamotte, accompanied by the Count and his resplendent bride, were ushered into the vibrant social circle of Cardinal de Rohan. The Cardinal's influence at the French court had waned subsequent to a dispute with Queen Marie Antoinette in the latter years of the 1770s. In his quest to regain her favor, he sought the aid of the enigmatic figure, Count Cagliostro, a man of many talents, including magic, astrology, alchemy, and a flair for swindling. Though Count Cagliostro's mystical incantations and elixirs failed to restore the Cardinal's standing, they proved to be a lucrative source of income for the self-proclaimed nobleman. Jean Lamotte and Count Cagliostro found themselves inexplicably drawn to each other, as if fate had woven an invisible thread between them. Sensing an opportunity tailor-made for amassing wealth expeditiously, the golden-haired adventuress swiftly conspired with Cagliostro. It came to her knowledge that King Louis XV had commissioned a magnificent necklace adorned with 500 flawless diamonds, each weighing between 5 to 8 carats, intended for his paramour, Madame Marie du Barry. Replicating this exquisite necklace in today's era would require an astonishing sum of approximately $4 million worth of diamonds. Once upon a time, before the necklace was paid for, Louis XV met his end on May 10, 1774. Louis XVI took the throne, and his wife, Marie Antoinette, claimed her place as queen. Madame du Barry's influence waned. Meanwhile, the world's most extravagant necklace remained in the hands of the court jewelers, Alphonse Bémer and Georges Bessange, who found themselves in a predicament, seeking another buyer. Now, turn to Jean Lamotte, who had found a new lover, Retaux de Villette, and persuaded him to pose as the queen's paramour. De Villette, an officer of the royal bodyguard, attended hunts and picnics with Marie Antoinette and received her grateful smiles. The cunning Jean Lamotte and the deceitful officer convinced Cardinal de Rohan that the queen desired the necklace, originally meant for Madame du Barry, her rival. Wearing the necklace at events would humiliate Madame du Barry, they told the cardinal. Unfortunately, the queen couldn't buy the necklace herself or accept it openly from her lover. But if the cardinal gifted her the necklace, it would reinstate his influence at court. Cardinal de Rohan told Jeanne that he didn't have enough money to buy the necklace. She had anticipated this and said that de Villette was willing to sell his inherited family estate to bankroll the operation. But since land deals took time, she suggested the cardinal dip into the church treasury to finance the first stage of the scheme, purchasing the necklace from the jewelers. Later, de Villette would reimburse the cardinal. De Rohan demanded proof of the queen's sincerity. and Jean produced a forged letter purportedly written by Marie Antoinette, promising the cardinal's reinstatement in return for his role as a go-between. De Rohan then asked for financial collateral. De Villette showed him 3 letters of credit authorized by the respectable banking firm of Moses Medini and Amp Sons in Strasbourg. The cardinal knew the Medinis well and had done business with them in the past. He could tell at a glance that the documents were genuine. The letters of credit were genuine, but had been altered. They were originally issued by Sarah's father as a wedding gift to Jean. Each letter was worth the equivalent of 5 livres, about 6 pounds, of pure gold. The total value of the wedding present was thus about $60,000 at today's inflated gold prices. It was a handsome dowry, but hardly enough to cover the price of 2,000 livres demanded for the necklace. However, Jean deftly added 2 zeros and the word 100 to each check, making each worth 500 livres. She used Moses Medini's flourishing handwriting and violet ink borrowed from his private office before she left Strasbourg. In the labyrinthine web of courtly machinations and shifting allegiances, the fate of the world's most precious necklace hung in the balance. Following the passing of Louis XV and the rise of Louis XVI and his queen, Marie Antoinette, the necklace remained in the hands of the court jewelers, Alphonse Baymer and Georges Bessange. Enter Jean Lamotte with her new paramour, Reto de Villette, who cunningly posed as the queen's lover. With calculated manipulation and the aid of a crooked officer, Jean spun a web of deceit to persuade Cardinal de Rohan that the queen desired the necklace. The intricate plot unfolded, promising to restore the cardinal's influence at court. In the grand halls of Versailles, Cardinal de Rohan confided in Jean, expressing his lack of funds to secure the coveted necklace. Unfazed, she revealed that de Villette was willing to sell his ancestral estate to finance the acquisition. However, understanding the time involved in land transactions, she proposed the cardinal tap into the church treasury for the initial purchase. She assured him that de Villette would later repay the amount. To validate the queen's involvement, Jean presented a forged letter from Marie Antoinette, pledging the cardinal's reinstatement. When de Rohan sought financial security, de Villette produced letters of credit from Moses Medini and Amp Sons, subtly altered to inflate their value. These artful machinations set the stage for an audacious deception at the heart of the French court. In the dimly lit grotto, Cardinal de Rohan retreated, leaving the lovers locked in a fervent embrace. Meanwhile, Count Lamotte, concealed amidst the foliage, relayed the cardinal's departure from the palace grounds. Nicole handed him the necklace, and that very night, he absconded to London with the dazzling prize. De Villette, enticed by the promise of a share in the spoils, fled to Switzerland. The cardinal, susceptible to deception, found himself in possession of worthless promissory notes and falsified letters of credit. As the jewelers demanded payment, the cardinal surrendered the 3 Medini letters, which bounced. Subsequently, the French authorities apprehended de Rohan and Count Cagliostro on various charges, including forgery and conspiracy. Meanwhile, Jean Lamotte's escapades led her from a small port to a daring escape from a police station, eventually seeking refuge in Moses Medini's residence in Strasbourg. There, she implored him for assistance, including money, false identity papers, and travel documents, but was swiftly apprehended, her fate shrouded in mystery. Police handcuffed her and brought her to stand trial in Paris. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, branding with red-hot irons and a public whipping in Bastille Square. The entire population turned out to see one of France's most famous ladies being stripped naked, branded on her breasts and buttocks, and flayed by burly henchmen in black masks. Jean Lamotte survived the torture and humiliation, and on June 21, 1786, became the first woman in the Bastille's history to escape. She sawed through the iron bars covering her cell window and slid down a rope to the ground, where a horse, money, and documents awaited her. It was obvious to the official commission of inquiry that probed the dramatic escape that someone with a great deal of influence and power had helped organize the breakout. Did the Medinis employ their considerable financial resources and political connections to help Jean escape? The answer will probably never be known. But on August 11, 1786, a young woman with raven black hair bearing travel documents in the name of Sarah Medini arrived in London aboard a Dutch passenger vessel. This could not have been Sarah, because the real Sarah Medini went to London in 1783 and stayed there until Count Lamotte arrived with the necklace. When he did, old love flamed again. Sarah was at that time engaged to a nice Jewish boy, as planned by her parents. But the moment the dashing count knocked on her door, she became his mistress. Jeanne's arrival later complicated things, although she was quite willing to share her husband with her childhood friend. On the fateful day of March 2, 1787, the lifeless form of Count Lamotte was discovered adrift in the murky waters of the London docks, a victim of a heinous crime committed by shadowy figures. Meanwhile, on the 10th of June in that very year, Sarah Medini, having inherited a grand estate in Tiberias from her mother, dwelled in solitary contemplation, weaving verses and likely haunted by the specter of her departed beloved. Her demise came amidst the grip of the bubonic plague in 1790, and, in accordance with Jewish tradition, she was interred fully clothed, adorned with the jewels she had worn in life, within the ancestral sepulchre at the Old Cemetery, on the 8th of March, 1790. Certain historians speculate that the Lamottes resorted to selling some of the necklace's precious diamonds to sustain their opulent lifestyle during their sojourn in London. Presently, a strand of 22 resplendent diamonds from the necklace is said to be in the possession of the Duke of Sutherland, while the whereabouts of the remaining gems remain shrouded in mystery. It is widely believed that Professor Chantillier was convinced that a substantial number of these jewels lay entombed with Sarah Medini, or rather Jean Lamotte, prompting his costly pursuit. By 1790, the French Revolution had burgeoned into its first year, and the grand deception involving the diamonds proved to be the final indignity heaped upon the beleaguered Bourbon monarchy. The public trial of Jean Lamotte, Cardinal de Rohan, and Count Cagliostro laid bare the profligacy and moral turpitude of the aristocracy, leaving France's destitute populace aghast. Despite Marie Antoinette's protestations of innocence, the masses were unwilling to absolve her of involvement, fueling salacious rumors of her purported multitude of paramours. As the revolutionary hordes stormed the royal palace and the Bastille on the momentous day of July 14, 1789, the military offered no resistance. The identity of the occupant of the grave in Tiberias and the potential presence of diamonds within it, or concealed elsewhere, remains an enigma. Rabbi Kaplan remains resolute in his conviction that remnants of the necklace still repose there, yet adamantly refuses to disturb the departed for all the riches in the world.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to read the original article or purchase the magazine from which it was taken, please check out our website, truetalesofburiedtreasure.com.